Hi, this time we will explain the storyline of a film called The A-Team, which was released in 2010. Alright, so let's just go straight to the storyline. In Mexico, there was a colonel named Hannibal, who was on a mission and must immediately meet his colleague named Face. Currently Face was on a mission alone for their target named Tuco. To get to Tuco's place, Hannibal hijacked the car of someone passing by, and it turned out that the person was a former army elite soldier named Biel. Hannibal then introduced himself, and admitted that he was also an elite army soldier, and a colonel. Biel then respected him and obeyed Hannibal's orders. After that, they went to Tuco, who was already preparing to kill Face. Face was rescued and they went to the San Vicente de Paulo hospital, which was a US Army hospital. Arriving there, Hannibal met his colleague named Mike, who provided him with a helicopter. After that, Hannibal spoke to the doctor, and the doctor told him about an army fighter pilot who was crazy, but smart. At the same time, Face was asking a doctor he met to stitch up Biel's wound, who was previously shot by Hannibal, when Hannibal hijacked his car. When the doctor was sewing the wound, a nurse came to call the doctor, who turned out to be a mental patient. Face then looked at Biel's wound, who had now been sewn in the form of a lightning by the mental patient. Not only that, the mental patient also burned Face's sleeve and caused a commotion. When Biel was angry with him, Hannibal came and got acquainted with the mental patient named Murdoch, who turned out to be a former member of the elite forces. At that time, Hannibal stated that Murdoch was released from the hospital and put under his supervision. Before long, they were all on a plane and Murdoch was the pilot. As they were just boarding, many Mexican soldiers came and opened fire on them. In addition, a helicopter in which Tuco also appeared continued to shoot at them from behind. Murdoch seemed to be very good at piloting a helicopter. Even though his method was very unusual and dangerous, he managed to avoid all the missile attacks from Tuco. Face and Biel was very scared and always screamed every time Murdoch maneuvered. Biel even almost fell because Murdoch performed a dangerous maneuver. Shortly thereafter, they crossed the border and entered American airspace. They then immediately fired missiles so that Tuco's plane exploded and was destroyed. 8 years later, Hannibal, Face, Biel and Murdoch were still together and joined in a unit called the A-Team. One day, when they were in Baghdad, a captain named Sosa met Face and told him about the case of high-level secret plates being smuggled in by Saddam Hussein's followers. Sosa then ordered Face to tell Hannibal about it, then asked them not to be involved in the case and leave Baghdad. After saying that, Sosa left and had her men watch over them. At the same time, a CIA agent who claimed to be named Lynch met Hannibal and talked about the secret plates. He even explained the details of the case to Hannibal and asked him to seize the secret plates along with the billions of dollars that the Iraqi army was about to move from Baghdad. Hannibal seemed interested in the mission, but he must ask permission from his boss named Morrison. Hannibal then asked permission from him, but Morrison did not allow. Hannibal then persuaded him, and he agreed. After obtaining permission, Hannibal had a chance to meet Pike, who was a member of the Black Forest group. Apparently, the secret plate mission was originally a Black Forest mission, so now Pike thought Hannibal stole his mission. Before long, Hannibal got together with his group and started talking about the plans for the mission. They then left Morrison base and outwitted Sosa men who were watching them. After leaving there, Hannibal started planning his plan and all the A-Team groups split up to find the equipment they needed for the mission. Meanwhile, Sosa, who was watching over the A-Team, felt strange because they didn't come out of the tent. She then checked their tent and it turned out that there were only people who were paid to pose as the A-Team inside. Sosa then became annoyed and questioned the departure of the A-Team to Morrison, but Morrison did not provide a clear explanation and instead criticized Sosa for acting impolitely. Shortly thereafter, the A-Team had finished completing its plan and was ready to go into action to seize the secret plates from the Iraqi army. Face was an important key to the plan, because he must succeed in infiltrating the Iraqi containers through the water holes on the road. Each of them acted well and eventually managed to defeat the Iraqi soldiers, where they also seized the containers containing secret plates and billions of dollars. Murdoch then flew a helicopter and took them and the container to the landing site prepared by Morrison. When they got there, they were very happy because they had successfully completed the mission. Morrison came by a car to meet them, but suddenly his car exploded and caught fire. The A-Team was completely shocked by the explosion. They then approached to try to help Morrison, but it was too late. At that time, the container suddenly exploded and caught fire, burning the billions of dollars in it. Hannibal had seen Pike there, and he then knew that Pike had planned it to take his secret plates. After that incident, Sosa was demoted because the secret plate case was her responsibility. Meanwhile, the A-Team was dishonorably discharged, accused of collaborating with Pike, and jailed for 10 years in segregation. 6 months later, Hannibal, who was imprisoned in Colorado, was visited by Lynch. Lynch showed a photo of Pike together with an unidentified Arab, taken from a CCTV in a European country. Hannibal knew it right away that it was in Frankfurt, Germany. It seemed that Lynch still wanted to get the A-team to take the plates, and Hannibal then ordered him to smuggle him a cigarette laced with tetrodotoxin. Shortly thereafter, the cigarette came and Hannibal smoked it. In seconds. Hannibal was later pronounced dead of a heart attack. While his remains were in the crematorium for cremation, Hannibal came back to life and got out of there. The news about Hannibal escaping finally reached Sosa, and Sosa immediately acted. At the same time, Hannibal freed Face, who was locked up in Florida. Although in confinement, Face seemed to live comfortably and enjoyed the luxurious prison facilities. After being released, Face argued with Hannibal, but Hannibal said that he would keep his promise to clear their names. Face finally reunited with Hannibal and they started working together to free B.A. One day, B.A. was in the prison transport car, and Hannibal gave the code through the license plate of the car he was riding. B.A. then immediately understood the code and he managed to escape. Now all that's left was Murdoch, who was being held at the Army Hospital, Germany. There, Murdoch was used as an experiment by several doctors, but they seemed to have difficulty getting the results. Murdoch also seemed to enjoy his life by being carefree. One day, an officer sent a package on behalf of Annabelle Smith. After hearing the name, Murdoch immediately understood that it was from Hannibal. Hannibal sent lots of 3D glasses to watch the movie. Murdoch then controlled all the patients there to want to watch a movie. They went into the room to watch, but at that time Sosa came to watch over Murdoch. Sosa seemed to be very upset that Face and B.A. managed to escape. When Sosa met Murdoch, Murdoch pretended that he couldn't respond. Sosa then ordered her men to always watch over him. The film then began with a scene of a car approaching. From inside the car, Face appeared and called Murdoch. Murdoch finally managed to escape. Also in the car were Hannibal and B.A. They all then went to the airstrip and seized an army aircraft. Murdoch returned to piloting and returned to flying the plane like crazy. They had just run away, now there was a drone with a missile approaching them. They were fired upon and Murdoch tried to dodge. The army officers saw them from the monitor and were about to shoot them, but Sosa said they must be captured alive. Even so, they continued to fire missiles and managed to hit the A-team's plane until it was destroyed. Shortly thereafter, they received news that there had been a parachute release. It turned out that the A-team got into the tank and floated using 3 large parachutes. Hannibal then ordered Face to shoot according to his orders so that the tank could fall into a lake. Their tank eventually crashed into the Wolgasee Lake in Germany and they all survived. After that, news of A-team's whereabouts reached Lynch, and at the same time, Sosa already knew that Lynch helped Hannibal escape from prison. Sosa then called Lynch to discuss it. After the call was finished, Lynch then asked his men to trace all of Sosa's devices. Meanwhile, the A-team started a meeting to devise a plan to seize the plate that was on Pike. Hannibal already knew where Pike was, and they were ready to act. At the meeting, Hannibal managed to guess that Lynch was targeting Sosa. He assigned Face to save Sosa from Lynch, men in Frankfurt. When rescuing her, Face gave her a cell phone so they could communicate without being tracked by Lynch. Meanwhile, Pike was in a building with the Arab and his secret plate. B.A. and Hannibal then worked together to get in there suddenly. Hannibal managed to get the plate and the Arab was taken away by Murdoch in a helicopter. Hannibal lost his plate but managed to get it back. Shortly thereafter, Sosa arrived and arrested Pike. After that, the A-team gathered in a place. They now had the plates and the Arab, but it turned out that the Arab was Morrison who betrayed him. They were all then disappointed by his behavior, but now they had evidence to clear their names. Shortly thereafter, Hannibal called Lynch to give him his plates, but he wanted Lynch to clear his name and the names of his comrades first. They then waited for Lynch to do that, while they managed to survive. Meanwhile, Pike, who was being held by Sosa, was instead taken by Lynch. Lynch apparently teamed up with Pike and Morrison, but they both betrayed him. At the same time, Face had a plan to frame Lynch. He told Hannibal to call Sosa to say that Morrison was still alive, and set up a meeting with Sosa. Lynch, who was tapping his phone, heard the conversation and looked upset. He immediately asked Pike to work together again. After the call was over, Face called Sosa via the cell phone that he gave her so Lynch did not hear. After that, they started planning to trap Lynch and this time they used Face plan. Before long, they were in Los Angeles Harbor. They started acting out for Lynch to see. Gradually, Lynch's group realized that something was wrong, so Pike shot the ship with the heavy equipment. Face, who survived, instead confronted Pike, but B.A. came and beat him. Meanwhile, Lynch fought with Hannibal. Hannibal was defeated and Lynch shot the person he believed was Morrison. But suddenly Hannibal got up and beated Lynch. After that, suddenly the cargo cavity that closed them lifted, and Sosa and his men had surrounded them. Lynch was finally caught. Meanwhile, the person who was shot by Lynch was Murdoch, who was wearing a bulletproof helmet. The next day, the A-team was happy that the plan worked and they managed to return the plates, also proving that they were not working with Pike to steal them, but some soldiers came to arrest them instead. Sosa protested because they had been instrumental in reclaiming the plates, but her superiors instead said that they were reinstating the old Sosa rank, but the A-team still had to be detained. The A-team was then handcuffed and put in the detention vehicle. Hannibal at that time said that they had done the right thing by returning the plates, and suddenly Face took the handcuff key out of his mouth. They laughed together. Reportedly, they managed to escape and become mercenaries under the name the A-team.